It's 1943. The Nazis dominate Europe. Hitler nervously awaits the Allies' next move. And at that moment, a corpse washes ashore on the coast of Spain. In his briefcase, ultra-secret documents revealing exactly where the British will attack. The Germans find them, they read them, they believe them, and with that, they've just bitten the hook of the most brilliant and macabre deception of World War II. It's 1943, and the Allies have a monumental problem. They need to invade Europe to defeat Hitler, but there's an obstacle: Sicily. It's the perfect gateway to Italy. It's right there, in the Mediterranean, waiting to be conquered. The problem is, it's too obvious. Hitler isn't stupid. His generals aren't either. Everyone knows Sicily is the logical target. And if the Nazis concentrate all their defenses there, the invasion will be a massacre. So, what do you do when your move is so predictable it could cost thousands of soldiers their lives? Simple. You convince the enemy you're going to attack anywhere else. Enter an extraordinary man, Ewan Montagu, British Naval Intelligence Officer. And his idea is so crazy, so twisted, so absolutely genius that it could only work in the most desperate war in history. Montagu proposes something unthinkable: create a fake British officer, plant secret documents on him, and dump his corpse in the sea near Spain for the Nazis to find. Yes, you heard that right. A corpse with false information. But here's the magic. They can't just make up papers and call it a day. The Nazis are too smart for that. They need to create a real person, with a life, with history, with loves and debts and letters in his pocket. They need the Germans to not only believe the documents, but believe in the man. And so Major William Martin of the Royal Marines is born. First problem, they need a body. And not just any body. They need one that looks like it recently drowned. After weeks of searching, they find the corpse of a homeless man who died from rat poison. It's not perfect, but the fluid in the lungs could pass for drowning. Now comes the part where these Britons prove why they're masters of deception. Montagu and his team don't settle for just putting documents in a briefcase. Oh no, they create an entire life. They put photos of his girlfriend Pam in his wallet, handwritten love letters, receipts for an engagement ring he just bought, theater tickets, a letter from his bank complaining about an overdraft. They even put keys in his pocket. Think about it. Who would forge keys? That attention to detail is what makes it brilliant. Because when the Germans examine every inch of this man, they're going to find a real life. Someone who loved, who owed money, who went to the theater. Someone totally believable. And there, hidden among his personal belongings, are the secret documents. Letters between British High Command revealing that the invasion will be in Greece and Sardinia, not Sicily. On April 30th, 1943, the submarine HMS Seraph surfaces off the Spanish coast. The crew pulls out Major Martin's body, dressed in his officer's uniform, the briefcase chained to his wrist. They read him a psalm. It's strange, it's surreal, but also respectful. And then they release him into the water. The corpse floats toward the Spanish coast. Spain is officially neutral, but everyone knows they sympathize with the Nazis. Perfect. Now all they have to do is wait. And it worked. Oh God, how it works. The Spanish find the body. They notify the British, as they should. But before returning the documents, they photograph everything and pass it to the Germans. Nazi intelligence examines them with a magnifying glass. They verify every detail. The ink, Sicily relatively unprotected. Hitler himself takes the bait. When the Allies invade Sicily on July 9, 1943, they encounter much lighter resistance than expected. Thousands of lives are saved, and all thanks to a man who never existed. Ewan Montague never forgot Major William Martin. Years later, he wrote a book about the operation, because sometimes in war, the biggest lies are built on the smallest details. A love letter, some keys, a bank receipt, and a group of Britons who understood something fundamental. To deceive the Nazis, it wasn't enough to forge documents. They had to forge a soul. Operation Mincemeat didn't just change the course of the Sicily invasion. It proved that in wartime, imagination can be as powerful as any weapon, and that sometimes the best soldier is the one who never lived. Barcelona, 1940. Juan Pujol is nobody special. Hotel manager, married, living under Franco's dictatorship after surviving the Spanish Civil War. But Juan has something many don't. He hates fascists, passionately, and he watches Hitler conquering Europe. So he makes a crazy decision. He's going to help the Allies. He's going to be a spy. He contacts the British in Madrid. They reject him. No experience, they say. He tries the Americans. Same result. But here's Juan's brilliance. If nobody wants him working for them, he'll work against the Nazis until the British have no choice but to notice. And for that, he first needs to convince the Nazis he's their perfect spy. Juan goes to the Germans in Madrid and sells them the perfect story. I'm a Spanish diplomat, I have contacts in London, I can be your spy there. The Nazis believe him. They give him money, invisible ink, and a code name, Arabelle. Small problem, Juan never leaves Lisbon. He never goes to London, but that doesn't stop him. From a public library in Lisbon, with tourist maps, travel guides, and a bit of imagination, Juan starts sending reports from London to the Germans. He invents military observations, describes the weather, copied from newspapers, reports troop movements, completely fake, even complains about British rationing, and the Nazis swallow it. All of it. But Juan doesn't stop there. If he's going to be a spy, he's going to be the best. He starts inventing sub-agents, people he supposedly recruits for his spy network. There's the RAF pilot, the corrupt official at the Ministry of Defense, the Welsh fascist fanatic, a Venezuelan student, lonely widows, even a guy who works at the Liverpool docks. In total, he creates 27 fictional agents, 27 people who don't exist but who send regular reports to Berlin. Juan invents personalities for them, backstories, even personal problems. One dies and Juan collects his fictional pension from the Nazis. Another gets sick when Juan needs time off. It's cynicism elevated to an art form. Meanwhile, at Bletchley Park, British codebreakers are intercepting Nazi messages, and they keep seeing reports from someone called Arabelle operating in London. Problem: MI5 has no idea who this guy is, and his reports are detailed. They panic. There's a Nazi spy loose in London, and they don't know who he is, until they analyze the reports more closely and realize almost everything is false. But false in a brilliant way. Whoever this guy is, he's deceiving the Nazis like a professional. They finally connect the dots and find Juan in Lisbon. They recruit him, officially. They give him a new code name, Garbo, like actress Greta Garbo, because he's the greatest actor in the world. And they bring him to London. Now he's an official double agent. But for the Nazis, he's still their best spy in England. June 1944. D-Day is approaching. The Normandy invasion. The most critical moment of the war. The Allies need Hitler to believe the real invasion will be at Calais, not Normandy. Who do they give this impossible mission to? Garbo. In the weeks before, Garbo and his phantom agents flood the Nazis with reports. Troops concentrating near Calais. Tanks, ships, everything points to Calais. The night of June 5th, hours before the actual landing, Garbo sends an urgent message. Invasion imminent in Normandy. Are they crazy? Why warn them? Because it arrives too late. Hitler is asleep and nobody dares wake him. By the time they read it, troops are already landing. But here comes the masterstroke. On June 9th, after D-Day, Garbo sends a 2,000-word message scolding the Nazis for ignoring his warnings. And he tells them, Normandy is a distraction. The real attack will come at Calais. Hitler believes it, completely. He keeps entire divisions at Calais for weeks, waiting for an invasion that never comes. Normandy succeeds. Europe begins to be liberated. For his work, Juan received the Iron Cross from the Nazis. Yes, Hitler gave him a medal. He also received the Order of the British Empire from King George VI. He's the only man in history to receive medals from both sides in the same war. After the war, Juan disappeared. He faked his death and moved to Venezuela. He lived quietly as a teacher until the 1980s, when a writer found him. When asked why he did it, he said something simple. I hated war. I hated fascists, and I thought, if I can end this sooner, I'll save lives. One man, no training, making up people in a library, changed the course of the greatest war in history. That's Garbo, the spy who never should have been one, but turned out to be the best of them all. 1940, France has fallen. The Nazis control Western Europe. Britain stands alone. Churchill needs something radical. He can't invade yet. He doesn't have the forces, but he can't just sit and watch either. So he creates something that has never existed before. The Special Operations Executive, the SOE. Their mission? Set Europe ablaze. Translation: sabotage, espionage, resistance. Fight dirty. Break every rule of conventional warfare. And here's the shocking part. Churchill sends women into Nazi-occupied France as secret agents. In 1940s Britain, women can't even serve in combat roles. But the SOE doesn't care about conventions. They need people who can blend in, people the Nazis won't suspect. They need agents who can disappear into occupied France and survive. Enter some of the bravest people you've never heard of. Violette is 23 years old, French-British, widow. Her husband, a French Legion officer, died at El Alamein. She has every reason to stay safe in London with her baby daughter. Instead, she volunteers for the SOE. They train her in Scotland, weapons, hand-to-hand combat, codes, sabotage, parachute jumps, April 1944. They drop her into occupied France. Her mission: coordinate resistance networks, prepare for D-Day. She's incredible, organizes sabotage operations, cuts German communications, moves like a ghost through occupied territory. June 1944, days after D-Day, she's on a second mission. Her car runs into a German roadblock. She could run. She could surrender. Instead, she tells her resistance contact to escape while she holds off the Germans, alone, with a Sten gun. She fights until she runs out of ammunition, takes down multiple German soldiers. They finally capture her after she's wounded. The Gestapo tortures her for months, wants names, routes, safe houses. She gives them nothing. Nothing. January 1945. 3 months before the war ends. The Nazis execute her at Ravensbrück concentration camp. She's 23 years old. Her daughter grows up knowing her mother was a hero. Noor Inayat Khan is the last person you'd expect to be a spy. She's a Sufi princess, descendant of Indian royalty, raised in Paris, published children's author, plays the harp, practices nonviolence. When France falls, she escapes to Britain and shocks everyone by joining the SOE. But you're a pacifist, they say. Fascism must be stopped, she replies. They train her as a radio operator, the most dangerous job in occupied France. Average life expectancy, 6 weeks. The Nazis have detector vans that can triangulate radio signals. June 1943. She parachutes into Paris. Codename Madeleine. Within weeks, the Gestapo arrests her entire network. Every other SOE radio operator in Paris. Noor is the only one left. SOE tells her to come home. It's too dangerous. She refuses. You need someone in Paris. I'm staying. For 3 months, she's the only radio link between London and the Paris resistance. She moves constantly, transmits from different locations, evades capture again and again. The Nazis are obsessed with finding Madeleine. They know she's out there. October 1943. Someone betrays her. They arrest her. They find her notebooks. She's broken protocol by keeping them. They have everything: codes, contacts, safe houses. But here's what they don't know. Noor has been feeding them old codes. Everything current is in her head. She tries to escape. Twice. They chain her up, mark her file highly dangerous. They send her to Dachau concentration camp. September 1944. They execute her. Her last word, according to witnesses, is liberté. She's 30 years old. After the war, Britain awards her the George Cross. France gives her the Croix de Guerre. Nancy Wake is different. She's not tragic, she's a survivor, and she's absolutely terrifying to the Nazis. Australian journalist living in France when the war starts. Sees Nazi brutality firsthand, decides to fight back. She starts as a courier for the French resistance. Then the SOE recruits her. By 1943, she's the Gestapo's most wanted person in France. They call her the White Mouse because she keeps slipping through their traps. They put a 5 million franc bounty on her head. She considers it a compliment. April 1944. She parachutes back into France before D-Day. Her mission: lead 7,000 resistance fighters in central France. Let that sink in. A woman commanding an army of 7,000 men in occupied territory. She's in firefights. Personally kills a German sentry with her bare hands when a mission goes wrong. Once bikes 500 kilometers through German checkpoints to replace destroyed radio codes. The resistance fighters call her the most feminine woman I know, until the fighting starts. Then she's like 5 men. After D-Day, her group kills over 1,400 German soldiers and destroys multiple facilities. She survives the war, lives until 2011, dies at 98 years old. When asked about her bravery, she shrugs. I hate wars and violence, but if they come, I'll fight like hell. The SOE sent 39 women into occupied France as secret agents. 13 never came home. They were secretaries, mothers, daughters, journalists, princesses. They spoke multiple languages. They could kill silently or blend into a cafe crowd. The Nazis tortured them, executed them, tried to break them. They failed. These women sabotaged railways, coordinated resistance networks, transmitted vital intelligence, prepared France for liberation. Without them, D-Day would have been bloodier. Liberation would have taken longer. More people would have died. Churchill wanted to set Europe ablaze. These women brought the matches, and the Nazis never saw them coming. November 11, 1940. While everyone's watching the Battle of Britain, something revolutionary happens in a harbor in southern Italy. 21 obsolete British biplane torpedo bombers attack the Italian fleet at Taranto. These planes are swordfish, fabric-covered, slow. They look like they belong in World War I, not World War II. The Italians have the 6th largest navy in the world. Battleships, cruisers, modern defenses. They're anchored in one of the most protected harbors in the Mediterranean. They should be safe. They're not. The swordfish attack in 2 waves at night, flying low, dropping torpedoes. It's chaos. When the sun rises, 3 Italian battleships are on the bottom of the harbor, half of Italy's capital ships. Gone. In one night, the British lose 2 planes. Why does this matter? Because one man is paying very close attention, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto of Japan. He studies Taranto obsessively, takes notes, learns the tactics. 13 months later, he launches a similar attack on a harbor called Pearl Harbor. Taranto proved that aircraft carriers, not battleships, would rule naval warfare. The Italians never recovered their naval dominance. Britain controlled the Mediterranean. One night, 21 old planes, changed everything. Mongolia, August 1939. Yes, before World War II officially starts. Japanese and Soviet forces clash over a border nobody cares about. It's remote, it's brutal, and it determines the fate of the entire war. Here's why. Japan has a choice to make: expand north into Soviet territory or expand south into the Pacific. At Khalkhin Gol, the Soviets, led by an unknown general named Georgy Zhukov, absolutely destroy the Japanese Sixth Army. We're talking complete annihilation. The Japanese lose 80% of their forces. Zhukov uses combined arms warfare, tanks, aircraft, artillery, all coordinated. It's a masterclass. The Japanese are humiliated. They sign a neutrality pact with the Soviets and decide, we're never going north again. So what do they do instead? They go south, attack Pearl Harbor, invade Southeast Asia. And here's the massive consequence. When Hitler invades the Soviet Union in 1941, Japan does not attack from the east. They honor the neutrality pact. This means Stalin can pull his entire Siberian army, his best troops, from the east and throw them at the Germans. These Siberian divisions save Moscow in December 1941. They stop the Germans at Stalingrad. If Japan had won at Khalkhin Gol, they invade Siberia. Stalin can't move those troops. Moscow probably falls. The Eastern Front collapses. But nobody talks about it because it happened in Mongolia. One battle, in the middle of nowhere, shaped the entire war. Libya, May-June 1942. Everyone knows about El Alamein. Nobody remembers Gazala. British forces outnumber Rommel's Africa Corps. Better supplied, better positioned. They have a defensive line 50 miles long. Minefields, the works. Rommel has less than half their forces. He's low on fuel, low on everything. So he does something insane. He fakes a frontal assault, then swings his entire army around the British southern flank in a massive sweep through the desert. It's risky. It's desperate. His tanks nearly run out of fuel in the middle of the desert. But it works. He catches the British completely off guard, cuts their supply lines, surrounds their forces. The British lose 50,000 troops, 75% of their tanks. Their entire defensive line collapses. Rommel captures Tobruk, the fortress that held out for 8 months. He gets promoted to field marshal, and suddenly the road to Egypt is open. The Suez Canal is threatened. If Rommel reaches Cairo and Suez, Britain loses access to India, to oil, to everything. Churchill is in Washington when he hears about Tobruk falling. Roosevelt asks what he can do to help. Churchill needs tanks, desperately. America sends 300 Sherman tanks. They arrive just in time for El Alamein. Gazala is why El Alamein had to happen. It's why the North African campaign became so critical. But everyone remembers Monty at El Alamein. Nobody remembers Rommel's brilliance at Gazala. June 4th, 1942. Everyone knows about Midway, but most people don't know it came down to 5 minutes. The Japanese have 4 fleet carriers. They're veterans. They destroyed Pearl Harbor. They've dominated the Pacific for 6 months. The Americans have 3 carriers. Their torpedo bombers have been slaughtered all morning, slow, outdated, flying coffins, 10:20 a.m. The Japanese carriers have just recovered from American torpedo attacks. Their decks are crowded with planes being refueled and rearmed, bombs and torpedoes lying everywhere. Their combat air patrol fighters are all at sea level, having just shot down the American torpedo bombers. And at that exact moment, American dive bombers arrive at 20,000 feet, completely unopposed. The Japanese lookouts spot them too late. The fighters are too low to intercept. The dive bombers drop. In 5 minutes, 3 Japanese carriers are burning hulks. The 4th gets hit later that day. Japan loses all 4 carriers, their best pilots, their offensive capability in the Pacific. Why does this matter so much? Because those 5 minutes shifted the entire balance of power in the Pacific. Japan goes from offensive to defensive. They never recover. The war in the Pacific lasts 3 more years, but Japan is essentially finished as an offensive force after Midway. And it all came down to timing. 5 minutes. If the American dive bombers arrive 10 minutes earlier or later, the Japanese fighters intercept them. Different outcome. Different war. History remembers D-Day, Stalingrad, the Battle of Britain. Those battles deserve to be remembered. They were massive, epic, obvious turning points. But wars aren't just won in the spotlight. They're won in harbors in Italy where 21 old planes sink a fleet. They're won in Mongolian deserts where a decision made in 1939 saves Moscow in 1941. They're won in North African deserts where a brilliant general with no supplies pulls off the impossible. They're won in 5-minute windows where luck, timing, and courage intersect. These battles didn't get the glory, they didn't get the movies, but they changed everything. 1939, Britain is at war with Germany, and Britain has a massive problem. The Germans have a machine called Enigma. It encrypts every military message, naval positions, troop movements, U-boat locations, everything. And Enigma isn't just complex, it's mathematically unbreakable, or so the Germans think. Here's why. Every time you press a key, the machine scrambles the letter through a series of rotors. The rotors change position with each keystroke. The number of possible combinations? 159 million. To put that in perspective, if you tried one combination per second, it would take longer than the age of the universe to crack a single message. The Germans are so confident in Enigma, they use it for everything. They believe their communications are completely secure. They're about to learn they're wrong. Because Britain has secretly gathered the most brilliant minds in the country to a mansion in the countryside called Bletchley Park. Their mission: break the unbreakable code, do the impossible, enter Alan Turing, 27 years old, Cambridge mathematician, socially awkward, brilliant beyond measure. Turing sees what others don't. You don't need to check every combination. You need to think like a machine. Build a machine to fight a machine. He proposes something revolutionary, an electromechanical computer called the bomb. The idea is genius. The bomb will test thousands of combinations per second, eliminating impossible settings until it finds the right one. But here's the catch. Building it requires resources Britain doesn't have. Steel, engineers, time, money, and many in the military think it's a waste. Just use more human code breakers, they say. Turing has to fight for every resource, every penny, every minute. Meanwhile, German U-boats are sinking British supply ships faster than they can be replaced. Britain is literally starving. If the convoys can't get through, Britain will have to surrender. The bomb isn't ready yet, and people are dying. While Turing works on the machine, the human code breakers at Bletchley find patterns. Weaknesses. Because humans make mistakes. German operators are lazy, predictable. They start messages with standard phrases. Weather report. Nothing to report. Heil Hitler. The Bletchley team calls these cribs, known pieces of text they can use to narrow down possibilities. There's Dilly Knox, the veteran codebreaker who refuses to retire. Joan Clark, the female mathematician whose Turing's equal but paid a fraction because she's a woman. Gordon Welchman, who improves Turing's bomb design. They work 24/7 in rotating shifts. 8 hours on, 8 hours off. No days off. Under constant pressure. And they can't tell anyone what they're doing. Not their families, not their friends. They carry the weight of the war on their shoulders in complete silence. December 1939. The first bomb is ready. They call it Victory. They feed it intercepted German messages. The machine whirs, clicks, tests thousands of combinations. And then it stops. It's found a match. They decode the message. It works. It actually works. But one bomb isn't enough. They need more, faster ones. 1941, the Battle of the Atlantic is at its worst. U-boats are everywhere, hunting convoys. Britain is losing. But now Bletchley has multiple bombs running. They're breaking Enigma messages daily, sometimes within hours of interception. They know where U-boats are, what their orders are, where they're going to attack. The Admiralty can reroute convoys around wolf packs, send destroyers to exact locations, hunt submarines that think they're invisible. But here's the delicate part. If Britain acts on every decoded message, the Germans will know Enigma is broken. They'll change everything. The advantage disappears. So British intelligence has to be clever. Sometimes they let convoys get attacked to protect the secret. They send reconnaissance planes to discover U-boats before attacking them. They sacrifice pieces to win the game. It's brutal. It's calculated. It saves the war. By 1943, the U-boat threat is broken. Convoys get through. Britain survives. The buildup for D-Day becomes possible. By war's end, Bletchley Park has decoded over 2.5 million messages. They've shortened the war by an estimated 2 to 4 years. Millions of lives saved. D-Day successful. Victory achieved. And nobody can know. It's classified. Top secret. For decades. The codebreakers go home, return to normal life. Can't talk about what they did. Can't explain the gap in their resume. Can't share their contribution. Alan Turing continues his work on computers. His designs at Bletchley become the foundation for modern computing. But in 1952, Turing is prosecuted for homosexuality. It's illegal in Britain. They give him a choice: prison or chemical castration. He chooses castration. The hormones destroy him physically and mentally. Alan Turing dies from cyanide poisoning, officially ruled suicide. He's 41 years old, the man who saved millions of lives, who created the foundations of computer science, who won an invisible war, treated like a criminal. Bletchley Park stayed classified until the 1970s. By then, most people had forgotten or never knew. Alan Turing received a royal pardon in 2013. 60 years too late. But here's what matters. Turing and his team proved that wars aren't just won with guns and bombs. They're won with mathematics, with logic, with brilliant minds working in secret. They fought a battle nobody saw, against an enemy that thought it was invincible. They didn't storm beaches, they didn't fly fighters, they sat at desks with pencils and machines racing against time. And they won. Every soldier who made it home, every convoy that got through, every battle won with intelligence instead of blood. That's their legacy, the invisible army that changed everything.